The tip this week is about M1 increases. And because these videos take so long to upload, I'm going to talk about the right slanting M1 first. And next week I'll do the left slanting. And there are a couple of things we can talk about in addition to that. Notice that I am using extremely large needles with these worsted yarn, and I've done that so that you can see more clearly what I'm doing and visualize it. Now, an M1 increase is where you make one out of the horizontal bar that lies between two stitches. And I'm going to be placing it right here. This is what I'm going to use. Now, if I knit directly into that horizontal bar, it leaves a hole. And that is the open form of the M1. And it's very similar to a yarn over. It'll be a tighter, smaller yarn over, but it is in essence a yarn over. Now, to make a lifted increase, you M1, you lift this bar onto your needle. And for the right slanting, I go from the front to the back and I lift it on my needle. And now what I need to do is I need to make a stitch out of it and twist it. And so I knit, kind of have to manipulate it. I knit into the front, and there's my M1. Now, a couple of things to notice about this. It leaves a hole at the base. And if I'm using very tight gauge yarn, and it won't be as noticeable, but of course on this it's going to be very noticeable. And notice that the leg of the stitch, the front leg, slants towards the right. That is what makes this a right slanting increase. So I'm going to work another one of those, and I'm going to knit to the end, turn, work to the end. Now, one of the problems with the lifted, or the M1 increases, is that when you lift that horizontal bar between the two stitches, what that does is it pulls yarn from the previous stitch. So if I look, here's my increase right there, and there's the stitch. Now, it's not too bad in this one, although you can see there's a big stitch and there's that little stitch. The reason for that is that when I lift that bar, okay, that noise you hear is my cats wanting to be fed, but that can wait. Notice that this stitch is still on the needle, so it's not going to get stretched out as much. But when I pull this bar from front to back, it really sucks all the yarn out of that previous stitch. And on a whole column of these stitches, it can be quite a tension issue because I can have big, little, as you can see there. Now, one of the things I can do to alleviate this problem is on my purl row, when I am returning, is I can make a yarn over at the location where that M1 would be. And because I am making them between the first two stitches and the third stitch on the needle, I can make a yarn over here. And when I get to that place, instead of pulling that bar is already on my needle, and it's oriented not in the correct way. It's oriented as if for a left slanting. So I need to go from front to back to reseat it on the needle, and then I can knit it, and it's not going to be pulling any yarn from the other stitches. It will be smaller and neater to look like. Now, this is more of a problem on the right slanting. When we do the left slanting next week, we'll see that it's not really much of a problem there. But on this yarn, as crappy as the tension is due to the size of the needles, notice I've got small, large, and then on this one, the stitches are going to be the same size.